Hello everyone, welcome back on our channel. As you know that in the last video we have covered the white box texting technique, and then in the previous videos we are already done with the black box technique. Today it is the last test technique which we are gonna learn after the black box techniques and white box techniques. It's experience based technique. As the name is suggesting, actually it's a kind of technique which is applied when you have high pressure. Experience based technique either can be of two way. First of all, remember it's an informal way of testing. There are three types of experience based technique which we will discuss, but they are informal. Normally they complement or support the formal techniques, I mean black box testing or white box testing. But sometime you have a high time pressure, like you have to deliver the product. In that case, these experience based technique are really useful, are really helpful, like to test to test your app. You can test your app without even if you don't have a time to plan for a particular testing, then maybe you can use this experience based technique. So now let's read in detail what is being written here. When applying experience based test technique, the test cases are derived from the tester skill and intuition and their experience with similar application and technologies. These techniques can be helpful in identifying tests that were not easily identified by other more systematic technique. Sometime there are some test cases which are even not being identified, or not easily identified using the systematic techniques, for example white box technique or black box technique that we have already gone through. So this technique also complement sometime, and even sometime we have all alone experience based technique. We have no time to apply a black box technique, white box technique, or you can say formal technique, so we go with the experience based technique. Depending on the tester approach and experience, these technique may achieve widely varying degree of coverage and effectiveness. Like they could be very effective or they could be even least effective depending on the skills and experience of the tester. Coverage can be difficult to assess and may not be measurable with these techniques. So as you know, in the formal techniques we have seen that we have designed some test cases, and then we have some you have already seen we have some approach for the particular test coverage technique. We know we have a traceability, we know these many test cases we have run and these were not run, so we have this percent of test coverage. But in experience based technique, as there is no test planned, we will see in detail, as there is no test planned, so the coverage is really difficult to say here. Commonly used experience based technique are here. The first one is error guessing. As the name is suggesting, it totally depends on the experience of the tester. Like the similar app, like he thinks about he or she or the team do not have any time to think about to designing like specific test cases, and then to analyze those test cases, and then to like everything about, no, they think what this kind of app have the failure from the past, what kind of error they have from the past. The product is ready now, and then they think like what kind of error they have experienced with a similar kind of app in the world with their previous knowledge, and then they apply those test cases on those particular areas to see if again the error is there or not. Sometime this error guessing is also known as the fault attack, because you know the fault, like what similar kind of errors this app could have, a fault app could have, and then you attack that one. So error guessing is a technique used to anticipate the occurrence of error, defect and failure based on the tester knowledge, including how the application has worked in the past, what kind of errors tend to be made, failure that have occurred in other applications. Like they think about like what they think about the certain scenarios where, for example, this app has behaved incorrectly with the other customer or in some previous project. So actually we drive the test cases at the runtime, and sometime even we note the test cases for the future. Our methodological approach to the error guessing technique is to create a list of possible error, defect and failure, and design tests that will expose those failure and defect that cause them. So simply, first of all you have the app, you have the product ready, you think about the failures or defects that this app could have or had from the past similar app, and then you write them down, and then you design test cases for those particular defects. This error defect failure list can be built based on experience, defect and failure data. Even you have some type data from your previous project with a similar product, or from the common knowledge about why software fails, basic sense. So actually, like, it's all about thinking about like what kind of error actually you could expect from the similar app in the past. Like for example, you have some app from the, let's say, online shopping, and you think in the online shopping we had some failure or some defects in the past while paying the payment with the credit card, let's say, and then you can say while adding some product in the cart. So you particularly apply test cases, you design test cases for the cart, for the payment module, and you see that how these particular modules are behaving in this app. So it's a kind of error guessing. And so I hope this error guessing technique is anyhow clear to you. Now we will go to the next, which is exploratory testing. The next type of this experience based test technique is exploratory testing. So what exploratory testing is? Actually, exploratory testing is, as you know, we apply this technique as the other experience based technique as well when we have time pressure, and even we do not have the proper specifications, we don't have the whole test process that we have discussed. Like after planning, obviously we don't have the monitoring and control, leave it, we don't have the proper test analysis or typical test design, we don't have the time or not have the sufficient specs. So what we do in exploratory testing? Actually, exploratory testing is a kind of, you can say, reactive approach. What you say, you have the product ready, for example you have the app ready, you play with it, you don't know what this like, you only know what is the purpose of this app, but you don't know different functionalities. On the runtime you play with app, you learn it on the runtime, and then you think in your mind, I should design this test case, I should design this test case, and then you run it on that app and you execute that test cases, and then if you get some defect you note them down, and then like it's a kind of, you continuously do it, like it's a kind of reactive approach. As I told you, it's not an active. You get some response from the app, you play with the app, you get some response, you think about a test case, you apply on the app, you get the response. So in exploratory testing, informal, not predefined, it's an informal technique. Tests are designed, executed, logged and evaluated dynamically during test execution. The test results are used to learn more about the component or system and to create tests for the areas that may need more testing. Like for example, you are on the runtime, you are designing some test cases, you are writing that, you are noting down in test cases, you are noting down the defects that are being generated due to these test cases. You learn the app at the runtime. Exploratory testing is sometimes conducted using session based testing to structure the activity. What does it mean by session based? For example, you say that we have 2 hours of session to explore this app and to write test cases. So you can say it's a 2 hour test. You fix it for 2 hours, and then at the end you say that we have done this 2 hours like time box, for example 10 times, then you say you have spent 20 hours on testing. So it's a kind of data for your future. So in session based testing, exploratory testing is conducted within a defined time box, and the tester uses a test charter containing test objective to guide the testing. Like you remember from the test analysis, we know this thing that the tester we make test charter which have everything, test ideas, test condition, but from the higher level. So maybe we have only test analysis phase during this app development. We don't have time for the concrete test design and, for example, test implementation, and then we only have test charter, like upper high level tests, and then based on that we have only basic knowledge, we learn the app, we apply the test cases. The tester may use test session sheets to document the step followed and the discoveries made. So the session based technique is exploratory. Exploratory testing is most useful when there are fewer inadequate specification or significant time pressure on testing. When you have time pressure, then you can go with exploratory testing. Exploratory testing is also useful to complement other more formal test technique like white box, black box. So it supports. Exploratory testing is strongly associated with the reactive test strategies. Like reactive, as I told you, exploratory testing can incorporate the use of other black box, white box and experience test based technique. So I hope this exploratory testing is clear to you. Now we will jump to the last topic of this experience based technique, which is the checklist based testing. Now the next and last, you can say, type of experience based technique which is discussed in this foundation level is checklist based testing. I think you remember from the review in the chapter number 3, we have discussed this checklist based review technique. Like what we had there, we had a checklist. Similar is the case with the checklist based testing. You have some test conditions, and which is like already documented, and then you like based on that test condition, you execute your test cases which are already written in the this checklist. Maybe these test cases are, or test conditions are being designed or developed during the test analysis phase of this testing. We have already discussed chapter number 1. So you have a checklist actually. Let go a bit deeper into it. In checklist based testing, tester design, implement and execute tests to cover test conditions found in a checklist. These test conditions maybe are written during the node planning, node monitoring, test monitoring and control, or during test analysis phase. They write some higher level, like they analyze the test which are possible and test conditions. So maybe those test conditions are written at that time in a kind of checklist. As a part of analysis, tester create a new checklist or expand an existing checklist, but tester may also use an existing checklist without modification. So they have an existing checklist about the test cases. Such checklists can be built based on the experience, knowledge about what is important for the user, or an understanding of why and how the software fails. Like this checklist can be made during like based on the analysis how this software can be failed, or particular keeping in view the particular user. Checklists can be created to support various test type, including functional and non-functional testing. In the absence of detailed test cases, checklist based testing can provide guideline and a degree of consistency. Like for example, you don't have like concrete test cases, well defined test cases, but if you have a test conditions written in a kind of checklist, then you can think this test condition, for this test condition we are writing this test case, we are executing this test case, and then it will help you actually anyhow the degree of consistency is there. As these are high level list, some variability in the actual testing is likely to occur, resulting in potential greater coverage but less repeatability. That means like you have already, for example, like you have a checklist, but like as I have told you, these are the high level test cases which are being designed during the test analysis phase or discussed. So there could be some variability in the actual testing. Like maybe you have the checklist, and you like based on that checklist you design some test cases other than the checklist, or maybe some less test cases or more test cases, resulting in potentially greater. It is possible you have a good coverage but less repeatability. Why you have a good coverage actually, or a greater coverage in checklist based testing? Because you have a well defined checklist or test conditions. You say that for this test condition I have written these test cases, so a kind of traceability, a kind of coverage is there, that this test condition is covered, this test condition is covered, this requirement is covered. So anyhow you could have the greater coverage. So this was everything from chapter number experience based technique, plus chapter number 4 is also completed, a very important chapter. And as I promise you, I will also upload the videos after the end of this video series as a bonus video related to the mathematical questions, or this test, like some bonus videos for the question related to the different black box and white box technique. If you have any question, any doubt, don't forget to put it in the comment section. You can also give us the feedback. Don't forget to subscribe our channel, like our videos. If you want to support us, you can also support us on Patreon. We will give the link in the description. Until the next video, we wish you happy learning. We wish you a very nice day. Take care and bye.